Mm. Boy, I tell you, the social climate these days in this country. Okay, greetings. Hi. Welcome. It is the African Witch Bitch. All right, so let's get started. A lot of people were asking me about different types of jars you can use, and I already posted a tutorial on how to construct a sour jar. Well, this time I'm doing honey, baby. You want to sweeten a situation? You have a situation that's like low key or high key fucked up, and you want to make that situation a little bit sweeter. I'll give you an example. Let's say your supervisor is a straight bitch. Let's say she mean as hell. Let's say your landlord's a straight up bitch. Let's say you don't get along with a family member, a cousin, a mama, a sister, a daddy, in-laws. Perfection. You and your best friend are on the outs. Now, when dealing with an enemy, somebody who has done you straight up wrong, a sour jar can be very, very effective. Or if you want to sour a situation. But also, on the flip side, you can also do a honey jar to sweeten a situation. Newsflash, all jars are not bad. If you put somebody in a jar, it doesn't necessarily mean you want to F up their life. You can very well put them in a jar to sweeten the situation, and that is what we are going to discuss today. Now, what you are going to need is a good old-fashioned empty jar. If you have used this jar before, like this is just a regular basic run-of-the-mill ass jar that I'm using, but I save all my jars. I have pickle jars. I have all kind of glass jars that I use. I do not use plastic too much. When it comes to constructing jars, I use glass. That's just me. I don't feel comfortable using plastic. I try my best to keep the work that I do as environmentally safe as possible because, number one, the whole premise of hoodoo is taking from the earth. But you also sometimes have to give back by not fucking the earth up when you're doing your work. And if you bury plastic, it could be detrimental to the environment. It takes plastic, I want to say, 200 years to break down. Glass, not so much. Okay? So that's just me on my soapbox because I do love the environment. You know, a bitch do care about the air and the water. Now, you get you a jar. Make sure before you use any type of ingredients, you cleanse them first. I have explained you can use sage, you can use incense, you can use frankincense, you can use Florida water, you can use rose water, whatever you feel comfortable with. Cleanse everything first and put your intent in it. Now, the difference between a sweetening spell and a sour jar is this motherfucker you gonna have to work. This is called spiritual work. This is called hoodoo work. It's not hoodoo sit back on your ass and hope some shit happen. This jar you will not bury. You are going to have to work it, and I'm going to explain that in a minute. So what you're going to need is an empty jar, right? Jar, I've never used this jar before, okay? And if you have used it, cleanse it out, dry it, sage the fuck out of it to cleanse any other intent, and make sure you hold it close to you for a period amount of time to put your intent in the jar, okay? You are going to need something sweet. You can use syrup, like if pancake syrup, you could use honey. It does not necessarily have to be honey, but you can use honey. You can use pancake syrup. You can use sugar water. You can use whatever, some sort of liquid sweetening ability. A lot of people like to call them honey jars. A lot of people like to call them sweetening jars. A lot of people like to call them sweetening spells. All of that is pretty much the exact same thing of what I'm going to do. It all just depends on what you feel comfortable with and what you can find, because I know a lot of people are watching my videos from all over the world and they may not be accessible to get honey. They may not be able to get, they may can only use sugar water, but that's the beauty of hoodoo, because none of this shit is set in stone and it's all about your intent, and the ancestors know exactly what you mean to do. And that's what it's all about. So you take something sweet, you fill this bitch up halfway. Depending on the type of jar you are making and the purpose of the sweetening spell will depend on what you use next. Example, let's say you're sweetening a court case. Let's say you have a court case going on where you were victimized and you have to go to court to state your case. I'm not talking about if you the motherfucker that did wrong and you're facing some justice that you deserve. No, if I come into your house and kick the shit out of you and you're suing me, then this shit won't work for me because I'm guilty as fuck and I shouldn't be bothering you. But if you're the victim and you want the court to see things your way, regardless of what type of court, what type of case it is, It could be a criminal case. It could be a civil case. There are certain things you're going to need in this jar that will be different if I was constructing a jar, let's say, because my husband's wife is a straight up bitch and I don't like her, but I want us to get along for the sake of the kids, right? Different. Now, this is going to be kind of, you guys are going to have to pay attention because I'm going to be all over the place, okay? In the event that this is a jar in regards to a court case, there are certain herbs that you can use. I'm going to give you an example of what I've used that have been highly effective. I know that a lot of the shit that I'm going to show you is not accessible in your area, or it may or may not be, but you can always find shit online. And if you live in a country where you can't find shit online, you're going to have to improvise and put your intent in it. So you're going to have to kind of custom fit it to fit your situation. So, like I said, fill this bitch up with something sweet, okay? Sugar water, honey, syrup, something. Halfway, okay? You are going to use some fenugreek seeds. This works good when dealing with a court case, okay? If you want to use something that has to do with money, let's say you're suing somebody and you want the judge to rule in your favor. You know what you need, baby? Some of this good old-fashioned 5-finger grass. This shit works awesome if you're dealing with any type of money situation where you want to draw money into you. Even if you're doing money spells or gambling luck. Let's say you're headed to Vegas and you want to like make it so that the dice be nice to you or the slots be good. You can work with this herb. It's very, very good. You add some of this bitch in the jar. If you want to attract something good to you, you want something sweet to you, you want to bring it into you. Sassafras works excellent when dealing with court cases. Okay? Another thing that works very, very well that I have found highly effective, because all of this I've used in a court case and it worked amazing for me. Gravel root. I have some gravel root right here. This works excellent. Just sprinkle. Just take a little bit, bam. A little bit, bam. A little bit, bam. Put it all inside the jar. You do not need a lot. Remember, I told you guys this. You do not need a lot in hoodoo. Okay, my favorite herb of all times, my favorite attraction herb of all times is cinnamon. This works excellent for for bringing money and luck into any situation. Okay, now this is specifically for a court case. Also, you're gonna need a petition paper, baby. This won't work without a petition paper. You get you a regular old paper bag, notebook paper, whatever it is. You can use parchment paper. You can use whatever you need. And you write down the name of the judge and exactly how you want her or him to rule in your favor. You write exactly. I would like Judge Blase Blase to rule that I am at no fault, and the blase and the whoop-de-bam and the this, that, and the third. You write it. You fold that shit to you, bam. You turn it clockwise. You fold that shit to you, bam. You turn it clockwise. You fold that shit to you, bam. And you stick that bitch in the jar. Yes, okay, that's for the court case. If you're dealing with a court case, the same premise really can apply to a certain degree, little tweaking of the herbs a little bit. If you're making a jar to sweeten a situation, like let's say you and your husband have been on the outs. You and him haven't been getting along, and you really want your husband to be nicer to you. You want to sweeten your relationship. My favorite love herb to use if you want to sweeten a situation with a loved one, with a romantic partner, not like a family member or a neighbor or a coworker, nothing like that, but a family member. Like a love interest, is dried up rose petals. This is what I use. I use dried up rose petals. Anytime a gentleman gives me flowers and the rose petals, the first thing I do is pluck them out and dry them, and I keep them. So you take a couple of these petals and crunch it up inside the jar. Again, if this is dealing with a family member or a husband or a girlfriend or a boyfriend, you're going to fill it up with the sweetening liquid, whichever sweetening liquid you use. You're going to take that same petition paper. You're going to write his name and exactly what you want, exactly. And you're going to stick that shit in the jar. If it's your mother-in-law, I want my mother-in-law to be nice to me and to stop talking shit about me to my children and whatever. I want her to call me to see how I'm doing. Whatever it is you want, whether it be a mother-in-law, whatever. You're going to take her name, same thing that I just said, whatever your petition may be, and stick her ass in the jar. Okay? Now, if you are dealing with a job, Let's say your coworkers are some straight up hoe ass bitches. You don't like them. They don't like you. They're always talking shit and you want to fix the situation. Your first knee jerk reaction is to put their ass in a jar and fuck their life up and kick them out the job. But then you're like, why? Why add that much energy? Why go, let's try this first. You can sweeten their asses too. And you can put more than one person in the same jar, especially when you're dealing with like a court case or family members. It's not just one person per jar. You can add your whole fucking office in this bitch. Okay, but here's the key. This is something you got to understand. Whichever type of jar you are creating, whichever type of sweetening spell you are creating, this is the kicker right here. If you don't listen to shit else I say, listen to this. You're gonna seal this bitch and you're gonna shake it up and you're gonna sit here, hold it close to you, meditate, put your intent in the jar for as long as you need it to be there. After that, you're gonna get you a plate, like a plate or a dish or something. Sit it down and you're going to do some candle working with this. Now, after this is sit down, the jar, you see the petition, you got your sweet, you got the type of herbs you're using for the type of work that you're doing. You're going to get you some chime candles or taper. Does not matter what kind you use. I actually like to use these because this jar needs to be worked. This is not something you're going to sit on the shelf and forget about and hope that the spell that you're doing work. No, you need to work this bitch, okay? You're going to have to work it. It's going to have to work like Quavo working me. Shut y'all asses up. I'm sorry. I have to train my cats right. Excuse me. So, if you are dealing with a court case, the two candle colors that I recommend you use is orange for road opener and green for money. You're going to take a cigarette lighter, burn the bottom, stick these holes on top. But before you do that, you can anoint these candles with attraction oil, whether it be court case oil, whether it be even honey. If you don't have nothing else, if you don't have an attraction oil to use, you can use honey, or you can use whatever sugary sweetening liquid that you put inside the jar. You take you put them on like a piece of like a brown paper or a notebook paper, and you roll. You first anoint the candle so that it's covered and saturated in whatever liquid you're using to fill this bitch up with, okay? Or attraction oil you're using. And you're going to anoint it towards you. You're going to anoint the candles towards you, and you're going to roll these up inside the herbs that you're using. Like, for instance, if you're using a court case, you can use 5-finger grass, you can use sassafras, you can use fenugreek seeds, you can use fenugreek leaves. Catnip works great for attraction when it comes to love. You can use alkanite. I have some alkanite here. This is great for court cases as well. And make sure that the candle is covered. You take a cigarette lighter, you burn the bottom of this bitch, you light it together, and you're going to sit here and put your intent in this jar. Every now and then, I'm not going to tell you exactly how often you should do this because I can't tell you, because you have to do this according to your intuition and what your ancestors are leading you to do. You're going to heat this bitch up. Maybe get you a pot. And put a little bit of water in the pot and sit the jar in the pot. You're not going to heat it up to a boil, but you're going to heat it up till it's warm, and you're going to turn it, and you're going to relight some more candles on top and put your intent. It might be once a week. It might be once a month. It might be a couple of times a week. All depends on the severity of your situation. And you're going to work this jar. You're going to work it, and you're going to keep working it. You're going to keep it in a place in your home. I don't know if some people's homes are conducive to practicing hoodoo. Mine is, because I don't give a fuck what anybody think. I do what I want in this bitch since I pay the bills. But your situation might be a little different. You might come from a Christian family or a Islamic family who might have major issues with you being a practitioner of hoodoo, and that's understandable. Everybody's situation isn't the same. So if that is the case, then hide this in a secret place that only you know where it is, and you bring it out sporadically to work the jar. That is the key. You have to keep working it, keep burning your candles. If this is for a court case, you want to sweeten the situation, orange road opener, green for money. If this is for a love interest, if it's a sexual partner, like a sexual interest, you want to heat up and spice up some sex, you want to put it in the jar, use a red candle. If this is for a friendship or a family member, and you want to sweeten the relationship with the person, or maybe a neighbor or a coworker or whatever it may be, blue works great for friendships. If you don't have any other candle and you're like, well, which bitch, I would love to use a candle, but all I got, and I don't have this color, I don't have that color, baby, you get you a white candle, because that can be substituted for any other color. Okay? If you are doing work to for another person. Get as much information as you can about the situation, and you can do a sweetening spell to help them in their situation. And remember, you have to anoint your candles every time you heat up the jar, and anoint your candles with the herbs, and you let it sit and you let it burn out, and you put your intent inside the jar. And these spells are very effective for sweetening a situation, or sweetening a person, or ending some type of beef or discord. Maybe you love your sister or your cousin or whatever, and you don't want to see nothing bad happen to them, but you want y'all to stop bitching and arguing so much. Sweetening, put that bitch in a jar, a sweetening jar, not a sour jar. You don't want to fuck their life up unless they deserve it, but not in this case. You just want to put them in a jar to sweeten the situation. Or maybe your husband's dealing with some bullshit on his job and his coworkers got him fucked up. Well, guess what? You get his coworkers' names, baby, and you do it. You ain't even got to tell him if he has issues with, practitioners of African spirituality. A lot of people do have beef with it, whatever. But again, this is pretty much how you do a sweetening spell, or a sugar jar, or a honey jar. Has a different names, but it's pretty much the same premise. If you have any individual questions and you want some advice or insight, please feel free. My email address is in the description box. I hope you've enjoyed this video, and I hope it's very helpful. And I really, really like it when you guys give me feedback to let me know if the spells work, because I do post them and I do want you guys to utilize them and to give me feedback. So you guys have a great night. Ashe.